and welcome back to another HMC HealthWorks podcast. I want to welcome back for a third time Abraham Jin. Thanks so much for joining us.
Megan, it's good to see you again.
He is here to complete our mini-series on becoming a leader worth following. And we've already discussed knowing yourself to lead yourself, living intentionally, not accidental, within our circles of influence. And today I'm excited to go even deeper and discuss liberating leadership as it relates to becoming a leader worth following.
All right. Well, when we think about this tool called Support Challenge Matrix, it really defines what this whole theme has been. It's about becoming a leader worth following. And the definition of a leader, we say, is someone who brings high support and high challenge. Someone who would say would be a liberate, right? They create a culture of empowerment and opportunity. A liberator would not only listen to people and to be able to pull from people, they are championing people. They are leaders who value the team members. They're seeking out ways to understand and motivate people. They are very clear, even also in their challenge, where they are able to communicate clear roles and expectation, which improves ultimately productivity, happiness, and culture. They are people who are looking for greater empowerment and opportunity for everyone, creating win-win relationships. They view people as assets, not liabilities, and they know how to calibrate both in the support and challenge, both at the same time. On the flip end, if you would say, look at the other aspects, there's other three styles of leadership. There's those who are high in support, but then low in challenge. These are people we would call people who protect, right? But sometimes we think that protect is a word that's a good thing. The way that we're defining it is actually, it can actually be toxic if not careful. Because if you're only bringing a lot of good things to people and you're bringing high support, but you're not bringing the healthy challenge, you're just bringing low challenge or no challenge at all, you're creating a culture of entitlement and mistrust. Entitlement, because guess what? If you're just being the nice person all the time and saying words that would tickle their ears, or you're always throwing all the support but no accountability at the end of the day, you're going to spoil the people that you are serving. And then after a while, what ends up happening is that because you're not communicating your views and your opinions and not pushing back on them to do their work, guess what? You may all of a sudden stop becoming nice anymore. You start to become a little bit aggressive, and it may not be like throwing out your middle finger and saying, I hate you, but it's more of, hey, I'm going to stop talking to you, or I'm going to stop working with you. And basically it's not fun working with you altogether. So they may start to veer away from projects and talk to you. And so that's where the passive aggressiveness can come from, those who tend to be more like a protect. And then there are those who tend to abdicate, right? They're the ones who have no challenge, no support. They're clocking in, clocking out, completely burned out, disengaged. They're like, I don't care type of attitude. You can't, you're not actually bringing any type of help or support. There's no communication, and you fail to hold anyone accountable because there's no engagement. You're not leaning in. And as a result, you become a drag to the morale and the productivity of the whole group. And as a result, because there's no challenge or support, it's like just a vacuum of leadership. It's a culture of apathy and low expectation. And then lastly, it's when you bring high challenge and then low support, we say that's a dominating type of leadership. And these leaders only care about themselves. They're pushing for results. They're finding reasons not to help people. They may be bullying people. They may be pitting coworkers against each other for competition to gain an edge. They're creating a culture at the end of the day of fear and conflict. So you almost feel like a pawn potentially on a chessboard. And then really, as you look at all four of these type of leadership, it's really, where we're trying to go in the north of where we're trying to lead everyone into is high support, high challenge. When you are liberating other people, and when you're actually creating that win-win environment, it doesn't matter if only one person is liberating. Because let me ask you, Megan, if I'm liberating you and if the other person is abdicating, totally doing nothing, is that a healthy relationship?
No, of course not.
No. What if I'm liberating and the other person is dominating me?
Yeah,
is that a healthy relationship?
Yeah.
No. What about if I'm liberating you and then all of a sudden you're protecting me? You're not really telling me all the true feedback that I need to hear.
Right. Yeah,
Is that
no,
yeah.
it's not going to help either.
So what's hard about this is a very simple tool. We actually personally have to take ownership and lead ourselves to want to liberate. But also, guess what? You have to call the other person on the other side of you to also want to lean in to liberate as well. Because for any healthy partnerships or any healthy relationship, whether it's your family, all the way to your work or the community, both parties have to lean in and desire for liberation. And that's hard because guess what? I can do something very liberating. I kind of shared this in one of my previous episodes. Um, I can be trying to liberate my firstborn in a specific way, and he likes the high feedback and challenge and critique to make him better. But I can do the same thing with my secondborn. But guess what? It could be dominating for him because he can't handle the feedback. He needs more security and love and affirmation to really secure him to actually have the infrastructure to receive greater feedback. But if I don't, pile up the affirmation, then he has a hard time receiving any type of feedback. And so what may be liberating for one person, it may not be liberating for another person. And so we need to learn how to calibrate. And so leadership is a dance. It's a dance of the support and challenge. And sometimes it's difficult and you have to not assume you're doing it well. We can't dance with every single person really well. And some people have their own rules or have their own styles. And so we have to ask them, like, Megan, if I was your boss, I'd say, hey, Megan, like, I thought what I was doing was liberating, but what does support look like for you? What does high challenge look like for you? And I'm literally a detective listening and learning from you and your feedback. And that's when I can learn how to calibrate to the steps that you're actually dancing with, right?
And as you went through that, the one that really stood out for me that I really kind of instantly connected with was the protector.
Yeah.
And I could really see how I definitely see myself fitting into that category in a couple of areas, and how really have to work on probably communicating a bit more about my about higher challenge.
Yeah. For those of you who are, you're the people first type of leader, you love relationships, you care about the people's opinions more. Sometimes it's harder to have hard conversations. You may not like to keep people accountable and to tell them that they're doing certain things wrong. And so you almost feel like you mastered hinting, right? in every communication, but it's really hard for you to tell fully what you really feel because you don't want to hurt and ruffle people's feathers, right?
Right. It sounds like you're reading my diary. Amen.
So, if I were to coach you right here, Megan, and if we were to take you to the path of being a leader worth following, because that's the whole theme of all of what we're talking about,
right.
It means that you need to learn how to elevate healthy challenge. When you think about that journey and you think about your context, whether it be your home life or your work life, can you share maybe an example where you feel like you've been having a hard time elevating challenge in a certain situation?
So it would probably be where it comes to offering critiques or corrections to friends or even our colleagues. I find it difficult to find the words to express, those corrections or those critiques. And I, of course, don't want to hurt their feelings. And so I offer a lot of support, and then I drop a few hints and some sarcasm probably about my expectations. And that doesn't give me the results I'm looking for.
Yeah. And sometimes they're like, like I didn't get your little hints or little jabs or little things that you're saying. And as a result, they're not responding to that unclear expectation, right?
Yes, exactly correct.
And then what happens then, Megan, when you're actually withholding some of your views and your opinions and your critique, and you're kind of holding it, what ends up happening afterwards?
Yeah, nobody's happy. Sometimes I will snap, or I'll shut down a lot of times. And instead of giving any feedback or really communicating at all, I kind of go into my little solitude.
Yeah. And so it's almost like you could snap, or you can just totally ignore and maybe abdicate. So you can either go to dominate or abdicate, right? And so what happens then is, as you are bringing in maybe more of a reactionary challenge, or you're snapping, or you're bringing some challenge out of frustration, it's like, I told you so many times, but it's really like you've had that more inner dialogue and you haven't really
Mhm.
fully communicated out there. Sometimes when we bring a challenge without communicating your intent, they will interpret it as, man, you're dominating me. You're just pushing your agenda all of a sudden. Like, I thought we were cool, and I'm starting to mistrust you now because I don't know what you really want, right? Um, and so what we need to do is then to say, hey, when you have a hard time bringing challenge and you're starting to then elevate challenge, you need to share your intent. You need to talk about your liberation intent, meaning this. You say, hey, I want to be a liberator, which means I want to bring level 10 support, level 10 challenge. I want to create where you can be empowered, we can be empowered, we can have more opportunities. Um, and I realized I've been withholding sometimes feedback because I didn't want to ruffle your feathers, but I think that's not really serving you at the end of the day. So I'm learning how to bring elevating challenge to give you the correct feedback so that I can be and you can be on the same page, clear in expectation. So please don't interpret it as me just being a mean person or dominating you. Like, I want you to know that my intention is for liberation. And as you share that, it feels a little bit long-winded because you're setting up the context of the heart of your vision of your feedback. But then now as you bring that and you're couched it to that framework, they're going to be able to receive your challenge without interpreting it as something very negative.
Okay, so if I communicate my intention, right here I am
Mhm.
trying to become a leader worth following, working towards that, um, becoming self-aware, and in that process of growth and trying to move towards that liberator leader, I do have to let people know this is what I'm doing, because they've
Yep.
only seen me as a protector, perhaps, as a high support, low challenge. So
Hmm.
no, that makes perfect sense, because if I start expressing how I feel, and of course in a respectful way, it could still be a surprise to a lot of people, I would think.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
hmm.
Absolutely. And so here's another thing, you may have co-leadership where maybe one person is the good cop, they're the protect, and you have one leadership that's more dominate, the other one's always pushing for results. If you have two leaders leading with two different cultures, one of a culture of entitlement through protect and one of a culture of fear, is that going to be a very synergized, unified leadership front? No,
No,
never.
no.
And in fact, sometimes we end up being in this dichotomic type of relationship when we're leading. But at the end, it's actually disempowering for both parties because it just doesn't seem like you're a unified front. And so it's very important that the dominate person needs to learn how to elevate support. The protect person needs to elevate challenge so that both parties can come with a liberating front, because that is really a leader worth following. And we don't want to pit camps and have a total different way in the spirit of leadership, but that you would literally go into that green zone of liberation, which requires both parties to learn how to calibrate support and healthy challenge. And so then you can be looking and coming with more of a unified leadership front.
I can see how that would absolutely need to be necessary for all this to really come together,
Oh,
especially in an organization or even a team or a family as well, right? To have that united front. So,
yeah.
well,
Yeah.
thank you for that. I appreciate that coaching session on the fly. But
Yeah.
as we wrap up here, we're coming to the end of our mini series, and again, I want to thank you. But before we wrap up, can you provide a definition for what you believe is a leader worth following?
Yeah. A liberating leader is a leader who actually is always looking for the good of those that you're fighting for. They are bringing proper support, proper challenge. They're looking and really being self aware, knowing yourself to leading yourself in a place of liberation. And they're thinking through it in a very intentional way through their circles of influence from the inside out. And I believe that is a really great definition. Using these three tools that we talked about in the previous episode to frame up, that is a leader worth following at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and thanks so much for your time, your expertise, your insights, and we hope to have you again on a podcast.
All right. Thank you, Megan. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Stay tuned for more HMC HealthWorks podcasts.